Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Ward 3 Neighborhood Planning Assembly. My name is Chris Hazley. I'm one of the steering committee members today and for this term. I'll be facilitating tonight. I guess we'll go around the room and do introductions. You want to start there, Amanda?
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Janu. I live in Ward 3. Was invited and look forward to just participating.
I'm Mark Bouchant. My family owns Homeport on Church Street.
Emmanuel Thomas, I run a security company here downtown.
Lindara Harbor. I own Harbor Thread on Church Street as well.
My name is Lee Morgan. My pronouns are he, him, and I live in Ward 3.
Zachary Cummings, Ward 3.
Hi, I'm Nora Aarons. I live on North Union Street in Ward 3.
Brooks Cummings, live on Cherry Street, Ward 3.
Councilor Grant.
Hi, Councilor Grant, Central District, which covers wards 2 and 3, and I live in Ward 2. Although it pains me because I lived in Ward 3 for over 20 years before the redistricting. Still hard to say.
Just a reminder here tonight too for the folks on Zoom and for the recording. When you speak, just try to grab one of the microphones that's closest to your device. Yeah, sure, Charlie. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to share with public forum? Anything on their minds, announcements, news, events? That's great.
I just wanted to say something that would be outside the purview of the counselor's updates. I wanted to say last month got a little crazy near the end of the meeting. There were some pretty remarkable things that were said about me online, such as I flew across tables and chased Councilor Litwin out the door down the hallway. When I got up, I just went to the table, which last month had something to eat because at that point I'd had almost a 14-hour day and I was hungry. I am sorry if anybody was upset by that meeting. I do not regret anything that I said. The priority that I continue to feel for the Central District, especially our downtown area, is to have a strategic recruitment and retention plan in order to have more police officers who are able to patrol. I believe that the kiosk can be a good idea down the future, especially when we have officers who can staff it. But early feedback, and we will continue to solicit more feedback, is that it's not what we need right now. And I stand by that. And I don't like to have disagreements like that, but I just feel that we have to keep our eyes on the prize with regards to what we need. Thank you.
Just a quick comment. So I was hoping a couple of my neighbors would join me today and they weren't able to. So part of my reflections are the participation seems to be, I'll say low for Ward 3. And I think Chris did a great job with this agenda, trying to make things of interest, trying to draw people in, but that's a continued issue is how do we pull people in to this meeting? Because I think it's important and I think a lot of people have great thoughts.
I appreciate that, Brooks. I think one of the challenges that we had faced is that, a lot of folks that were living south of Pearl Street really didn't know what the NPA is. So I think there's part of an educational campaign to get folks aware of what it is that we do. And I think moving forward, we'll probably try to do a little more targeted outreach, for folks that have been, have some deeper roots in the wards that are interested in these kind of things, folks in your building, for example. So. Lee.
Hi, everyone. Lee Morgan. So yes, I've lived in Ward 3 for about 6 months now. Wish that I have started coming sooner. Just had a lot of personal affairs to take care of. And I just want to really be honest and name why I came tonight. As some of you may know, a group chat of the Burlington Democrats has become public record. And in that are Democratic counselors coordinating who is going to come to this NPA meeting to troll Milo Grant. And I won't name the steering committee member that they said is involved in that, but they named a steering committee member. And I'm pretty upset that this apparently is being coordinated. And I hope that's wrong. But that's dead wrong. If this NPA is being used as a venue to gaslight and undermine a duly elected official, that's wrong and against the spirit of what an NPA is. So I request that the steering committee here directly address that at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Never a dull moment. How are we on time there, Shawnee? Anything else for public forum? Thoughts, comments? Sure. Yeah, Charlie, if you want to give your update.
Okay, so I'm Charlie Giannoni. I live in Ward 2. Basically, I'm going to be spending a lot of time between now and next March to try to get to reestablish the Ward 3 polling place. Right now, it looks like there's not going to be a ward clerk, so I'm probably going to end up being appointed, even though I live in Ward 2. I'll probably be appointed to be the ward clerk in Ward 3 for that election. But I would be happy for someone else to do it. So what we need to do in Ward 3 is find people to work at the polls. Okay, so right now we basically just have one person. We have one inspector out of the 4 positions that with a resident from Ward 3, and that's Barbara Alsup. Okay, so everybody else is a Ward 2 working at the Ward 3 polls. So it would be better for Ward 3 to have their own staff from representing their own folks instead of just having people from Ward 2 appointed by the city council for every election. So we're looking for people who are interested in working at the polls in more than just a greeting role. So we're looking for people to work from it's a long shift. It's from 6 in the morning until midnight, even though we've been getting out of there by 9 in the last few months, but the last few elections. But so it's a long day on Tuesday, and there's a lot to learn because you have to do everything in an exact way. So we need people who are responsible and who get along with folks. So for the month of March, next town meeting day, we're looking for a few people from Ward 3 who want to be appointed as inspectors of election, so they can start learning what it takes to work at the polls. So again, the reason all these Ward 2 people are working at the Ward 3 polls is because before redistricting, they all lived in Ward 3. And so they've been working there for 10 years. And so that's why we just keep going back, even though we don't live in Ward 3 anymore. But it would be better, and it would look a lot better if actually people who live in Ward 3 were the officials from Ward 3. So the city council doesn't have to appoint them at every election. So we're looking for responsible people who realize it's a long day. So they have to understand that it's a long day on whenever we vote. So it's from 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning until whenever it finishes, which is roughly 9 or 10 o'clock at night. A lot of people have done it over the years. Everybody that's done it has enjoyed it, but some people just find that it's too much it's too much work for having a 20-hour day or an 18-hour day. But I'm probably going to say that at every one of these Ward 3 NPAs until February, that, I'm hoping that Ward 3 can build their own staff. Right now, I'm trying to get some of the retired inspectors from other areas of the city to come and work at town meeting day that's approaching, so that we have some people in the room that know what they're doing. But hopefully they won't have to do that if we can get some people from Ward 3 to step forward. So you can contact me or Chris Hazley, or, we're just looking for people to step in. So if you're interested, feel free to talk to me or call Sarah Montgomery, who's the clerk that works for elections in Burlington. And we'll try to get this thing back on the road. Thank you. Any questions, you're welcome to ask me any questions.
Charlie Messing, say a few words and introduce yourself.
Hello, Charlie Messing. Thanks, Charlie. Charlie is great. He knows all about what he's talking about. I live 2 blocks from here in a BHA building with 65 apartments, and I am over 65. And I'm happy to try and make things good for the people who live in Ward 3. Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
All right, so let's do the last call on public comments forum. Sure. All right, I guess at that point, we'll just roll into the retail panel theft discussion. So I'll do a quick introduction here. We have Mark Bouchette from Homeport, Emmanuel Thomas, Social Security, and Lindara Harbor Friends. So you guys just want to take a quick minute, give a brief introduction, talk about what's on your mind, what you're experiencing, then we'll just Q&A. Keep it informal.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Lindara. I am a Burlington resident and I actually have 2 children right here at VHS at the mall. I live in the South End and I opened my store 22 years ago. Just to give you all a little perspective on sort of where Mark has also been on the marketplace even longer than I have. I started my store upstairs above Ken's Pizza, 700 square feet with 45 SKUs. And now I take up all of 96 Church Street upstairs and downstairs. So I've been around and doing this for a while and I am so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I love the opportunity to sort of tell people truly what we're sort of experiencing daily. I have a pretty wonderful staff of people that have worked for me for years and we're very close and they mean a lot to me. Daily, what we experience is we have people come in with the intent to steal and sometimes we catch them, sometimes we do not. We do have cameras now. We file with the police every single time. And sometimes those individuals are arrested and every single time almost every single time, they are released and within the same day, they will then go steal from one of my neighbors. And it's reoccurring. And we have dealt with some really uncomfortable and scary incidents trying to stop theft. Again, I'm a locally owned business. I'm a single mom and we actually can't afford to just turn and look away. Like I know a lot of the nationals can, and in fact, it's their policy to, and I understand that. But because of that, it's created an environment where a lot of people feel like they can come into downtown Burlington and steal and not get in trouble. We've had people come in and threaten us physically, spit on us. My manager was punched in the throat, trying to stop someone from walking out with quite a bit of inventory. And because there are no repercussions for it, and there haven't been for so long, we have created an environment where they, quite frankly, are emboldened. And I feel very nervous now that someone is going to get hurt. I feel guilt that I ask my employees to show up every day for me. I feel powerless. The laws are such that we don't feel like we have any power other than to just be stolen from over and over. And you can imagine, what it feels like to have someone walk into what feels like an extension of your home and just take whatever they want. And it's not sustainable. We've seen so many of our neighbors, beloved neighbors, close their doors, lose their businesses. And I think if there's one thing that I really want to leave you all with, it's that what we are experiencing downtown is organized crime. It isn't the occasional theft. This is crime that is part of a economy built around substance abuse. And it is very sad for all parties involved. That is for sure. But this is not something that has to do with anything other than drug dealers telling, their customers where to go and what to take. And if you see U-Hauls on the side street, let me make it very clear, those U-Hauls are on the side street because that is where everything goes that they steal from us. That is where the bikes that are stolen from our neighbors and our children, they are in those U-Hauls and they end up in storage units that are right here in our town. And then it goes out of state on Facebook Marketplace or in other places to be sold. And there is nothing right now with the laws that are on the books. There is nothing right now that is stopping it.
Appreciate that. Any anything you want to add to that?
I
Yeah.
forgot to do this. You should do this.
That's the mic. Yeah, there we go.
Like I didn't use.
Well, I started when I first moved to Vermont in the court system. I was a court guard for probably 8 different courts in the state of Vermont. Coming from a larger city that has been used to dealing with drugs and drug trafficking, I was shocked because hearing the stuff I did hear about Vermont when I came here, I didn't expect to see such an organized group of people stealing and doing drugs. My first 3 weeks here, I recognized a guy from Florida who was banned from ever coming back from Florida as a drug dealer in Vermont because it was that easy to get away with it here. And I stopped him, had a conversation with him. He remembered me. And he was like, oh yeah, you guys can't do anything here. And it blew my mind. At that moment, I knew Vermont was not ready to handle such a large situation. It was so new to you guys that it threw you off. And it still is. It is tough. And watching other major large cities deal with it in such a different way because they're used to that type of crime. Taught me a lot. Here you guys take it with a pro-social state of mind. You try to be nice to everyone, and I get that. I completely, being a larger Black male, when I walk into stores, I get looked at. I know I'm gonna. It's just the stereotype. But I know when you see people that look like you doing the same thing, it irritates you. I don't care if you're white, Black, Hispanic, whatever. 5 to 10% of most people in your group are criminals. It's just the way it works. I've worked corrections. I've done work for sheriff's departments. I've done it all. Television tells you one thing, but in reality, it's a different way. So when I walked into starting security for Lululemon, I was able to still stay within the guidelines of you guys' laws and stay somewhat pro-social, but understand that I'm there to protect those people without bringing harm to anyone in that group. And that is a hard thing to train, especially from somebody who was born and raised in Vermont. You're not used to dealing with that or reacting in that way. So once most of the people that stole and put stuff on Facebook Marketplace understood that I wasn't playing around, and that if you bring a physical act toward me, I'm going to bring one back. If you yell at me, I'm going to politely tell you to leave the store. Once they figured out I was serious, they never came back. Lululemon cut their theft from like $1,200 a day to maybe $5 a week. But I'm from a larger city, so I know how to deal with them on their level and quietly without having to raise my voice and take care of a situation. For somebody who's born and raised in Vermont, you're not used to that. It hits you in the face like a brick. I've seen store owners come tell me they ran in, they threw clothes. We had to hide in our back room. Customers are hiding back there with us. I'm thinking, wow, this is just wild. It's like the Wild West. But a person, I just wanted to go to every store and go, I will set a guy personally in your store, and I will teach you how to deal with this situation in a different way to protect yourself and your people. I mean, I offered Helly Hansen's employees martial arts classes just because they were just getting beat up every other week, breaking in her windows, tearing down her doors. I saw a video where the people were in there for 6 minutes trying to break through the glass door when they locked them in. And I was like, this can't be happening. We got to do something about it. You can call police all day, but they're still under the same stipulations and laws that the rest of us are under. I know quite a few of them. I know probably 20 sheriffs, and they're still all under that same stipulation. The laws eventually will change because the state will eventually get tired of it. But until we do something as a group or together or hire another unit in like the underneath to take care of it, you guys are not going to be able to handle this problem. And short of me personally bringing in security people from Florida, which I don't see like happening, it's not going to stop. I mean, I don't know if any of you agree with me or have seen the same things. All right. You completely understand that this is a bad problem. I've gotten off work, volunteered to go to a store across the street that was open later, just because I saw how bad it was, just so I can stand in front of their store so they're not being robbed late at night. It's crazy to me. I had one of the building owners down here. He wants to sit down with me to talk about getting some of my men to patrol through the streets so we can have somebody out there constantly 24/7 that isn't afraid of confrontation, that won't get angry and try to beat people up, which I've seen some people do when they get mad at, you can yell at me all day. I have children. I get yelled at all the time. You're not going to affect me, but you're still going to do what I tell you to do. And if the people aren't trained to do that, just like in your stores, people are afraid to come in. They're afraid to come in because the thieves and robbers and drug dealers here have taught their people, all you got to do is yell at them, they won't confront you. So your people aren't used to that. You get yelled at or something thrown at you, you're going to be running or crying or getting hit in the face because they know you're scared. You confront a criminal with authority, they shut down. I've done it a million times. They're more afraid of you than you are them. Just they know you can get away with it because you're not going to do anything. I will personally volunteer time in every single one of your stores to teach your people how to handle situations if that's what you want. But I do not want to see someplace like Vermont, and especially Burlington, go down like all the other cities have with the same problem.
All right, thank you, Manny. Mark, thoughts you want to share?
Sure. I mean, I'd certainly echo the stories Lindar and Manny have both told. We're sort of out there every day. I've been doing retail since I was a kid. We've been on Church Street for 40 years now. And there's always been retail theft forever and ever. I ran businesses up in Montreal. There's retail theft there. And it's always, you know, it's always expensive. That your customer ultimately pays for that retail theft because you recoup that money to buy your next batch of goods by selling the batch of goods that you have. And if 10% of them get stolen, then 10% of them go into the price of the ones that you actually sell. So it's unfortunate your customers pay for the theft, and that's always heartbreaking as a store owner. You're trying to get the best deal for your customer. You're trying to be competitive in the marketplace and be fair, and you have to tack this cost on. There's no question about it that, and it's funny, it struck me what you said, we're not prepared to deal with it. And you're quite right. I mean, we certainly want, having been in retail all my life and dealt with a lot of theft, and most of it's been petty. Most of it's usually it's kids. They come in, they steal something because every kid tries that. You sort of catch them. They're embarrassed. You get it back. You say, don't call their parents. Don't do that again. And if it's not that, you'll catch somebody who's, just stealing from, they get the opportunity, they take a stab at it, you sort of catch them and you say, hey, is there something you forgot to pay for? You try to be polite to people and not embarrass them. And they cough it, they say, yeah, I did, and they confess and they hand it up and you say, don't come back for a month or something. And that's the way we've handled theft for years and years, for 35 years. And the quality of the theft has changed dramatically over and it's drug. People come in for looking for specific things. They come in, they're in and out of your store in 30 seconds, and they're carrying an espresso maker, you know? And when you confront them, it's changed from, gee, you got me, to get the fuck out of my way. Nothing you can do. What are you going to do? I say, well, I'm going to call the police. They're not going to do anything. And you're sort of left to your own devices. And, you know, we really, for the first little while, we didn't know what to do about that. You know, it's just so radically different from our entire retail history experience, and particularly here in Burlington. I chased a lot of thieves in Montreal, but when we got here, it was not like that at all. And so none of us were sort of ready for that. And I am never, not now and not ever in the future, am I going to ask my employees to chase someone for stealing. It's not worth the risk. It's not their job. But it is demoralizing nonetheless to both me and my employees. You know, even the employee who I'm not asked, it's not coming out of their pocket. It might come out of their future raise if we, but it's certainly not coming out of their pocket. But it's wildly demoralizing. And you know, this is a family business. So at a certain point, Francois and I, my son, who runs the business with me, just sort of said, we're not letting them go anymore. We're not going to touch a human being. We're going to hang onto those goods till they give them up. And that's kind of the approach we've taken. We have also hired security. And the reason we hired security is not so much for the actual theft, but because of the toll, the emotional toll it was taking on our staff. And I just, this way I could say, you know, have somebody and say, this is your job. And you get them a little bit of training, you get them into it. I'm sure you've met our guy. And he's, you know, we've sort of instructed him to be respectful and all the things that we want, all the things that we value here in Vermont. You know, we're not, you know, I understand why people are stealing, but I can't abide it, you know. But it's taken the pressure off my staff, and it's worked so well towards the morale of my crew since we've hired the security person, that we've sort of agreed to let him go to our neighbors if they find themselves in the same, if they've got somebody. We know all the thieves by name. Every one of them, I know them all by name. It's the same relatively small group of folks, probably about 25 to 35 roughly individuals doing all the stealing in Burlington, or at least 98% of the stealing in Burlington. So we can identify folks, and we've got a fairly good, you know, awareness of when somebody's coming into our store to steal, as are all the other merchants on the marketplace are sort of waking up to that, you know, who's in to steal. And so we, you know, my guy will go over and help the neighbor, just stand there. He won't do anything. He's not allowed to do anything. You know, he's just allowed to be there as a presence. The people who are stealing typically know that he knows who they are, and that's typically enough for them to put down what they're taking and walk out. And that's kind of where we are. It's expensive. Obviously, it adds to the cost of my doing business. For me, it's absolutely worth it simply for the morale of my crew, which was really, it's amazing the toll that it takes on your staff when somebody comes in and steals from you, calls you a bad name, and pushes you out of the way. That's really, you know, it's demoralizing. And so that's what we're kind of dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And it does feel that the laws do need to change. And I think, you know, I know the courts are backlogged after COVID. That's what I've been hearing is one of the reasons why these cases are being handled in the way they're being handled. I love my community, Burlington. The community has been good to us for 35 years, 40 years. And so we're invested. This is my family's whole what little fortune we have is invested entirely in downtown Burlington. We're not going anywhere. We got no plans to go anywhere. So we want to see it through. We're hoping to get to the other side of it. I guess that's all I really have to add to that.
So just do a follow-up and we'll open up questions. Y'all had kind of commented about like the things being changed a lot. Like what are some of the specific things that you see based on your experience that you'd like to see change that would make things easier for y'all to continue doing business here? So
Well, because anything under, as you know, it's a $900 cap that it's still up to $900. I mean, what? Again, it is the same characters over and over and over, and they've gotten really good at mixing in enough like of the national chains. So those chains are not reporting, so that sometimes they're pretty good at getting right under that $900 mark, so that it doesn't become, you know, a bigger deal. But I just want to say that for us, in a very personal way, that means that, as you can assume, just like restaurants, you know, most of my staff over the years, young women, you know, occasionally, you know, young people and young men. And retail shouldn't be the front line. And where we end up at is that we're sort of being told it's okay to intimidate, to come in, to threaten, and to steal from us and put my employees in a place that is very scary. It's very frightening. These are grown addicts and dealers coming in against college kids. And up until $900, that's okay. It cannot be this anymore. It has to be stricter. And again, because there are no repercussions legally, we are going to enter a place pretty, like, it already feels dangerous. Whether it is or not doesn't matter, because my employees come to work feeling sometimes unsafe. And that is not fair. So the $900 like cap, that's ridiculous. And whether the backlog is still, I'm hearing that backlog is getting better, but I have a stack here because again, we call in every time we have theft, we report, we believe strongly in it. And 9 times out of 10, we get a mail saying charges dropped. We cannot continue to drop these charges because, to your point, they know. They laugh at us. And they come here now to steal from us. They come over the border from New York to steal. And then they go home because they know it's better to steal in Vermont. So we're not even just dealing with our, you know, citizens that are abusing this. We are dealing with kids from people from out of state stealing from us. So yeah, I think that, you know, I'm a very sympathetic and empathetic human, and the intricacies of this are not lost on me, but we are not doing these people any good by allowing them to be criminals and to, you know, have goods to steal for their addiction. It's not helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I would concur. The feeling that, well, for one thing, the thieves all know the law. They're very aware, and not only do they know the law, but they're aware of the circumstances and the situation in the bigger picture. They know that there will be no consequences for the action. We recently, in an effort to sort of address this a little bit, we said, well, we tried to aggregate so that, you know, if you stole, because $900 is a lot of money, you know, and you could do it. It was per instance. So it was, you could go in, you could steal $899 and leave and come back an hour later and steal $899 and leave. And so you could do that. So we were trying to make it so that if you, you know, that you could aggregate that over a period of time. I think it was 2 weeks or something they were looking at. And at the last minute, when the bill went to the House for a vote, it was changed to aggregate convictions. So on your first conviction, there would be you'd be released. And on your second one, you would be released. But on your third one, that was the one that made it a more serious offense, so that maybe there'd be more serious consequences. But we never get a conviction. So there's never that first conviction. So since that first conviction never happens, it essentially deneuters the law. And it's funny. It is, it's a small group of people and so so I do think it's, I don't know what it is. I don't know I'm not public policy and legal. That's certainly not my expertise. I'm a merchant. I'm a salesman. But the fact that there are no consequences, the people committing these thefts absolutely know that. They know that there'll be no consequences, and that's why they continue to do it. And that's why it sort of feels like we don't have support as, as merchants and as business folks, because I don't know any other area where somebody could walk into somebody's house, steal up to $300 or $400 worth of stuff, and there would be no consequence.
And then they could come back later that day.
And do it again.
If they are arrested,
Right. But if they do it from a business,
it's okay.
and I know my society does not think that's okay, but I think they don't know what to do about it.
Benny, give you the final word on this one, and we'll open it up for questions.
Gotcha. I mean, I agree completely with both. It is, they know there's no consequences, so they're going to keep doing it until they're challenged. More police officers are definitely needed. I agree with Councilor Milo on that. Other cities, especially New York, there's like one officer for every 10 people. I mean, I don't think Vermont needs to go to that extreme, but I've talked to quite a few. They are overworked and they're running. I mean, in the evening in this area, there's what, 2 officers? And they have to take care of the entire area the entire time. You get tired, just like you guys are tired of dealing with it constantly every day. Coming at that, I mean, your aggression level and your nerves are just like, oh God, I got to go back into work today. Something has to be done. I mean, either it has to match the crime, or you just have to keep these people in jail longer. But something has to be done, because you're at the boiling point now where nobody wants to come shop. And you can't do that to the people that own these stores and the people that own the buildings. They're like, I mean, it hurts. You're just like, man, this is my town. I mean, I was accepted the minute I came into Burlington. Like, everybody loved it. Like, oh my God, this guy's great. We love him. I'm like, wow, that's the first I've ever heard that in any town I lived in. And it was just wonderful being here. But that crime and people being able to do whatever they want to do kind of like drags on your soul and makes you not want to be here or shop down here anymore, So I agree with them completely. Something needs to be done to keep them here longer, keep them in jail longer, or harder consequences for the things that they do when they're down here.
We have questions for Brooks and Charlie.
So as a private citizen, I have a question for you guys. So I'm ready, willing, and able, and frequently do confront these people when I see them. You'll typically find me in CVS screaming at people, putting stuff in their backpack. I was outside of Always Full, where there was a street person going through open pallets. Confronted them. They called me. I've been called everything that you can imagine, and I'm okay with that. I have my mace in my pack, and so my question to you guys is, I don't want to be arrested for crossing the line. So do you know what I've tried Googling what's acceptable for folks to do? I mean, short of assault, we're putting together a group of folks that are, I hate to use the word vigilantism, but thinking about having 10 or 15 people go to Center Street and just stare at them with open cameras. Something like that, where the numbers of individual citizens can overwhelm them and make it obvious that their behavior is inappropriate and not acceptable. So I don't know, I'm hoping you would know as a security company, how far can I go?
Legally, you can't give them any more aggression than they give you.
That's easy.
So filming is federally protected. Anybody, 20 of you can stand there and film one person to try and intimidate them. It's federally protected. Nobody can touch you for that. If you grab that and touch that person, then we have a different issue. If that person grabs you, you are allowed to push back with that same amount of force legally to stop yourself from being hurt. If they get injured in the process, it's their fault. But make sure you catch everything on camera. Because in a court of law, it's going to be your word against theirs. So as far as the law is concerned, what I was taught and when I teach the guys that work for me, do not physically lay hands on them until they lay hands on you. And then at that point, most of my guys are trained to be able to hold them down until the police officer gets there.
And I'm trying to get people of Burlington used to the idea that we need to take back Burlington. So in the summer, it's beautiful here, right? They have concerts. BCA has concerts out here. Take back the park. Go back and just sit and observe and just watch. I won't say stare, but watch at the people that are acting poorly and just make it unacceptable for that, right? Walk down Center Street and I get screamed at all the time, but it's like, I'm going through the middle. I'm on a sidewalk. I'm walking through the middle of this crowd. I'm not putting hands on or anything else, but you can say what you want to me, but I'm trying to get more people involved with just, like you said, understanding the situation, but be more interactive and less accepting of what we're seeing. So, thank you.
Hey, first of all, thank you for coming. I'm sorry that that's happening. That's not right. I think the one thing I want to caution people on, I'm hearing some things that are concerning me for people's safety because I'm in recovery. I have substance use disorder in remission for a very long time, and I was in that world for a very long time. And I don't feel like people understand how true the saying is that desperate people do desperate things. And and I would love for him to hear, because I'm most concerned about him. Maybe he'll watch the recording. You gotta keep in mind, you have people. So when you're talking about people who are actively using, I know people who have killed people for a lot less than an espresso machine. And when you are standing in between, like, this disease makes you feel I would do anything. When I was using, I would do anything for that next high, anything. And I am very worried that, the day will come where someone's going to cut you and you may not recover. And, and then when you're talking about dealers, I mean, it is nothing to serve prison time. For a lot of people who are active, it is nothing. It is nothing to be arrested. It is nothing to serve, county time. It is absolutely nothing to serve jail time. And if, I know dealers who, if they're being filmed, they're going to shoot you, because they can shoot you and get away with it. Or not, they don't care, but they do care if you're filming them. And so I'm just really worried that a lot of our citizens are getting the idea of the answer to take back Burlington is, well, I'm going to grab my camera and I'm going to film these dealers. You're going to get shot. You're going to film the wrong dealer. And so that is my concern, is that while well-intentioned, if you are not from the drug world, like myself and other people, you absolutely do not know what you're getting yourself into. And that's why Chief Murad, anytime he hears this stuff, has been very adamant that citizens not do these things. So that is my concern. I think there are a lot of ways that citizens can band together and affect this stuff, but please, for the love of God, do not film drug dealers. Please do not. You are going to get shot eventually. Please, thank you.
Can you hear me? I don't know. I hope so. Yes. Well, I'm from New York, and that gives me a different attitude than somebody from Vermont. in general. I left New York City just before the crack epidemic. The crack epidemic, to make a long story short, a guy would be so shaky that he's holding a knife or a gun on you and he doesn't know if you're saying yes or no. And he doesn't know if you're handing him money or taking out something to fight him with. They're just so out of it. Shaky zombies are what killed 42nd Street, Times Square. Anyway, we have trouble a few blocks from here with people coming into our building because we have 65 low income. You have to qualify for the building. And some of them try to have mercy on people they know from the outside. So these people sleep in the basement and tear things up, mess things up. They had to get rid of the couch so they wouldn't find people sleeping. They say they have cameras and they don't seem to be able to find the people on the camera. But BHA, hi, Steve. BHA says that they'll take care of it. They won't even tell us anything about anyone else. Privacy is everything. And if we all know who's letting people in, we still can't use the names and we can't do anything. We're forming a tenants association, which we'll be able to do more with, silly as that seems. But we're mostly older people, and some of us are sharp, some are dull, and never even go out. But, okay, people on the street, I'm from New York, I'm not intimidated. They ask me for money and I say no and keep walking. I know how to do that. But I was carrying groceries home on College Street, just past 126, just across from Bennington Potter's, and the sidewalk is 10 feet wide and I'm carrying packages and a guy comes from behind me and smashes into my elbow with his elbow and growls in my face, "Get the fuck off the sidewalk." So I looked at him and he was kind of backing down the hill, trying to look threatening at the same time. And I said, "Fuck you. You get off the sidewalk." And that was all I had to do. But I was happy that I could save some Vermonter from having to experience this, because some of them have never had anybody randomly threaten them. And the last thing they think of is taking command of the situation. But I mean, my thought about somebody being right in front of me, I might get in trouble for it later, but, you know, we used to have the expression, kick them in the nuts. And though I won't go further than that, it's like, there are things to do. Somebody mentioned mace. I think mace is a good idea. I found that what I've heard about tasers is not good news. They either don't stop people or they do too much. But yeah, they stay away from guns. And it's amazing that people do not punch each other anymore. In Brooklyn, everybody used to punch each other. That was a fight.
I'm an old 40 deuce boy, so I know exactly what.
And now they have guns. It's ridiculous. But yes, we have to stand up and we have to form tenants association. I'm glad that somebody is helping with Church Street, because they haven't had people stand up to them. They go to Salvation Army every day. There could be a covert way of getting a shot, but I wouldn't stand in front of someone and take their picture, obviously, because yeah, they ain't gonna like that. And they're thinking you're in the way of their freedom. You don't want to corner somebody at all. You want them to be able to leave, but you can't stand firm in some ways. And I'm getting flimsy as I get towards 80, and that's natural. But I'm still hostile, and I would probably throw a chair at somebody instead of a punch. But you know, it's important that they know we don't want to stand for it, and things are changing. Having somebody's picture on the wall of your store, I don't know. Having a sign that says, "You've already been here, don't come back." I mean, there are many things that I would do, but I don't own a store, so I can't do them. As a customer, I can be very rude and I can kick somebody because I don't work for the store. I used to work for stores in New York and in Montpelier, and we didn't have too much trouble in Montpelier. But in New York, occasionally, we would, you know, two guys are muttering and looking at each other and looking around, see if anybody's looking at them. And I walked right up to him and said, "This is December." So I said, "You guys being good?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, are you guys being good?" He said, "Somebody could get hurt talking like that." I said, "Not me. Not here. Not now." There's a door over there, and I just let them think about the door, and they realized there was less trouble somewhere else. That's really all somebody has to do, make sure that it's less trouble somewhere else. Oh, by the way, apartment building, door stays open for 20 seconds in case somebody has a wheelchair. And I have had no response so far in asking for an override button, something that would close it right away because you're getting into the elevator. And as a rule, we get into the elevator without letting the door close first. That's how everybody else does it. I stand there and make people wait until the door goes click, and then I'll take the elevator. So it's a matter of vigilance, and it's a matter of outsmarting them, and outsmarting them. I mean, they're very clever, but they're not as smart as we are, and we have to show them.
Thank you, Charlie. Mark and then Councilor Grant.
This may sound naive, but when I think of taking back Burlington, I think just citizens coming down and using the spaces the way that they're meant to be used, is visiting the cafes and the restaurants and the retail establishments, telling your friends that it's good to come down to Burlington, that it's safe, that it's, you know, you're not going to get in trouble. I'm down there every day. My daughter comes down, she works at the store. We're not in fear for our lives. So I think using the space the way it's meant to be used is the absolute best way. Again, it may be naive, but I think that's the best way to take our streets back.
When the eclipse happened, right? There was no sign of bad behavior. The town was full. It was wonderful, right?
Councilor Grant.
Thank you. And just a quick reminder at the Public Safety Committee meeting, which is once a month. It's been the third Thursday. We may be moving it to the fourth Thursday. We're waiting to see after Organization Day where all the committees land, but we have people come and talk about their stories and what they were dealing with. As a lot of people are aware, we had a horrendous situation on Grant Street. And we were able to get that buildings shut down. What is really terrible is that Krusk had to resign once Trump came into place. And he was doing a really good job with some of these federal cases for trafficking. And talking to Sarah George in the past, she will tell you, she's very upfront about it. She would prefer some of these cases to be at the federal level because the laws are different than at the state level. And as some people know, I was a police commissioner prior to running for council. I saw what was happening because it started happening in wards 2 and 3 first. It was in our neighborhoods. We saw the increase in porch pirates. We saw the increase in people being bold and going onto porches, walking through people's yards. We saw increase in needles. We saw the increase first in the car thefts that were happening. We were seeing it all, and we weren't getting the response that we needed from City Hall and BPD. And I know this is going to sound terrible, but it's really true. You're dealing with a primarily working class and trying to hang on to the middle class neighborhood. You're dealing with a neighborhood that was primarily renters. But I walked down the street with Jeff Nick as a police commissioner, and I said, stores are going to need to get ready to get security. And he was like, no one has the money for that. I said, that's what's going to happen because one, nothing's being done with what's happening already, and it's moving. Two, as I asked more questions, when we talk about the responses and holding people accountable, I found that the Vermont laws were not ready for what happened after COVID. They just weren't ready. So when we talk about that improvement that they tried to make on retail theft, it's still not where we need it to be because it's not, and you're right, it's organized. And I would say it was organized, and I got poo-pooed on by the chief of police, by the former mayor. And I was like, this is related to the drug trade. There is active. So it took too long. Like people that were closer to the ground who could see it couldn't get, politics is just dirty sometimes. It's like, you're a progressive, you're a Black woman, nobody wants to listen to you. But I'm like, when do you start to listen? And so I want to say that we got to take the politics out of it. People who voted for Governor Scott, that's awesome. You need to be communicating with him because he is not doing what he needs to do. When we look back at Governor Shumlin at the previous opiate wave, his state of the state address was like, this is the thing that we have to concentrate on the most because this is what is hurting our state. And at that time, we dealt with the opioid crisis. Did it all go away? Of course not, because it never all goes away. But it was about getting everyone involved at every level across the state to deal with this. Governor Scott has not done anything like that. He's been at times very slow to act. He's been at times very slow to approve projects and release opioid fund money. And with the issue with even this quote unquote executive order, that only addresses a small amount of people. There are many, many people that are going to be out in the street, and guess where they're coming? So you have to, as businesses, be in contact with Phil Scott's office, really hit him hard, communicate with him, because there's no picture of Phil Scott having a good time in Burlington. There just isn't. He doesn't come here. He doesn't have respect for us. He talks about us like we're some kind of, big urban city and you have those urban problems. He literally says these things, and it's just not okay. I wanted to know the incident where one of your employees was punched in the throat. Was that a case that was made?
It was a case that was dropped.
Can I?
I'm happy to, yeah.
Yeah. Can you here? I would love to talk to you about those cases being dropped and who's notifying you of that. I wanted to, because Center Street came up, I did get an update on Center Street because it is an area that has been a hot spot and that I've been following. The old location where Phoenix Books was, and as we all know, a lot of things are happening there, as well as across the street in the garage, and also in the parking lot of the convenience store gas station. Both those properties are owned by the same person, and the city has been actively engaging that owner to be more responsible about those properties. What he's been told that he needs to do is he needs to be managing his properties, specifically putting no trespass signs in the windows of the old bookstore. And also with regards to, adding signs in the parking lot that say for customers only. That gives more power for enforcement to happen. Actively trespass problematic individuals. As we all know, it's the same people and you can trespass them. And once they're trespassed, that can help with enforcement. I always advise that there is a new tenant that is going to be coming into the Phoenix bookstore. It will be a cannabis retailer. We are kind of getting saturated in that market, but having said that, the cannabis stores are required to have a certain level of security that other retail is not required to do. So that might also help. And there was about a month and a half ago, there was a major arrest of a trafficker there. So that's kind of an update. There's always hot spots. And if you notice things, don't assume that we know or don't assume that people at City Hall know. Say something, because I ask a lot of questions when people ask me questions in order to say, okay, people will tell you I'll drive around my car at night and I will stake places out. I drive around, I walk around at night, and I tend to be, if I'm in down, because I work outside of Burlington, even though I live in Burlington, I do walk around in the mornings as well. So you need me to know something, please let me know. I'm trying my best, but I am excited. We'll get you in just a second. I'm very excited about Chief Burke. Chief Burke has a long working relationship with Sarah George. A lot of things that have been happening, that have been making the news, are not going to be tolerated under Chief Burke. And what I hope that means is looking at how these cases are made, reviewing things. We all know the online reporting system was a catastrophe and we lost a lot. And we know a lot of people don't tell me numbers are down. I know people aren't reporting. So I don't believe for a minute numbers are down. So I'll leave it there. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks, Councilor.
Yeah. Love your attitude. I'm a New Yorker. I get it. The number of people that come down, like if there's a special event on a weekend, it cuts down the amount of crime.
Yeah.
Most definitely, because they're going to be seen the entire time. So for anybody that wants Burlington to change, shop twice as much, because they're not going to hang out.
We just come down and walk, get a coffee,
Right.
walk around.
Bodies. Not doing anything will promote it more. Me and him being New Yorkers, I was in New York during the entire crack epidemic. You don't do nothing, it gets worse. New Yorkers learned that the hard way. Filming them, if you're going to do something to them physically, it's the smartest way to not put yourself in prison. But I do not advise you to get aggressive with anyone. Leave that to the pros. There's 3 to 4 security companies that are willing to work with every police officer here. Most of us know a lot of them. So if it takes 3 or 4 stores together to hire a security guard just for your stores, do it. Because it's what, $15 an hour a store? Yeah.
It's pretty hard to find security now though too. It's a different conversation.
Yeah, we'll have that conversation.
Yeah, we'll have that one later.
I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
Yeah.
We do have Philip on deck here who's
Oh, I just had,
patiently.
yeah. please.
Yeah.
But did you get to Ladar to make one party?
I was just a final, yeah, I was just gonna say, I just want to put this out there, for over 2 decades, every time I bring employees, looking for work, what I tell them is this space is open for the community. I don't care if you can afford to shop here or not. I grew up very poor and felt very uncomfortable walking into stores like mine. So my whole thing is, you don't work on commission, so just make sure people come in and feel welcome. And I don't care how they identify, if they want to shop upstairs in the women's, downstairs. We come as you are. Everyone is welcome in the store. And now people walk in and we are so consumed with looking at them and deciding if they are a danger to us. And so if you don't think that this is impacting the community in a larger way, it is. Because downtown is changing because we are scared. And I hate that we went from offering a space to the community that said, come on in, everyone, come in, come in. You're welcome in here, to being like, you cannot come in here. I'm not positive, but you're scaring me and I cannot do this anymore. And I want to end on that.
Thank you, Mark, Manuel, for coming in and sharing your perspective. Get to hear from Philip Peterson, Department of Public Works on Battery Street Corridor Study. If you want to swing around here, maybe ask Sean.
I thought it was interesting, if anybody. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. They were talking about the Main Street construction that lasted about 3 minutes. What you were saying took the entire rest of the conversation. So hopefully people will listen.
Thank you for coming out, Philip. So we had some requests from some members of the community for an update on Battery Street, concerns about traffic, sidewalks, crosswalks, traffic calming, and so we reached out to GPW, and as luck would have it, you guys are in the final stretches of the Battery Street corridor study. So
we are. So we have had probably close to 3 years of public meetings about the Battery Streets scoping study and kind of what the plan is. We have an approved preferred alternative. It's been approved by the Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee. It's also been approved by the Public Works Commission. Our next step is to bring this to City Council on April 14th. So this is kind of advising you on what's going on, but we have a lot of projects that are due to be happening this summer. So I'm happy to discuss some of those. And there's some overlap. We have a traffic calming project on Archibald, which is, I think, Ward 2, but it does border Ward 3. So anyway, so kind of the purpose of the Battery Street work was to enhance safety, enhance pedestrian safety, and also kind of like look at the corridor in terms of connectivity for our bicyclists, and also reduce crashes. It's kind of a high crash corridor. If you've ever driven along Battery Street before, it can feel a little like a racetrack, and that's not really what we're going for. So as I said, we started with back in 2022 on some alternatives. So we have two main alternatives that we settled on. The main difference between the two alternatives is the location of the bike lanes, which is going to be two different bike lanes. So alternative one, the bike lanes are on either side of the streets, west side and east side. So 6 to 15 foot wide sidewalks as well, which is side path, and 6 to 7 foot wide bike lanes on both sides. And then some parking reallocations and basically like a road diet, some signal improvements. This was not the alternative that was chosen. Alternative 2, which is the one that was chosen. Bike lanes are on one side of the streets, the west side of the street. So basically a 12-foot wide two-way bike lane on the west side of the street, with some 5 to 10 foot wide sidewalks. This kind of offers the best solution when it comes to keeping some parking. There was also some key takeaways. Folks were concerned about impacts to traffic operations, given that we were doing a road diet on the street, reducing lanes. Some concerns over impacts to parking. Also, a lot of folks concerned about pedestrian crossings at College Street, Main Street, side-by-side riding in alternative 2, impacts to Battery Park, and as usual, maintenance issues, which is definitely a blind spot for Public Works. Maintenance issues when we have any infrastructure in the city of Burlington. The cost of upkeep on any infrastructure, it's pretty significant, and construction isn't getting any cheaper. So we also looked at a third alternative, which was a combination of bike lanes on both sides of the street in the downhill portion, and then moving over to one side of the street south of College Street. That did not turn out to be what we chose. So we chose alternative 2 as, first of all, it's the least expensive. It requires the least amount of civil work. And what do I mean by civil work? That's like the least amount of moving the earth, the ground, less concrete. It's also the best when it comes to maintaining parking. It was also the most preferred alternative for the public. some kind of initial analysis. If we look at kind of the comparison when it comes to travel time, and this is based on some traffic modeling that we put together. Alternative 2 is the best when it comes to that. So basically what you're looking at on this graph is how long it would take in southbound and northbound in peak hour in the morning or in the afternoon to get through this corridor. And with alternative 2, we'd estimate it would take you 3 minutes northbound, southbound. If we went with alternative 1, it could be upwards of 5 minutes. And that was definitely not something that folks were keen on. Other things that we looked at were more parking opportunities, the reduced College Street crosswalk length. You know, in the summertime, if you've ever crossed the street at Battery in College, it can be a little hairy. It gets very busy, folks trying to get down to the waterfront. Reducing Battery Street impacts as much as possible. We're also, I mean, obviously this is a not a lost opportunity, but an opportunity that we want to capitalize in terms of businesses. There are some, quite a few businesses along Battery Street, and by, reducing lanes, we're going to reduce crashes. We're going to reduce speeds. We're going to increase pedestrians and bicyclist activity, which is going to increase commerce and businesses. A lot more walking and biking. Seems to work on Church Street. So not that this is going to be like Church Street, but it's definitely going to be a lot slower, and that's good for everybody. Other things that, we kind of looked at, folks were concerned about, bicyclists being on the same side of the street and that there would be an uphill and a downhill riding kind of against each other. So we did design a 3-foot buffer between the 2 bike lanes. It would be a painted buffer, which will allow for really easy snow removal. Can use 1 ton to do snow removal, which is always a concern in Burlington. So anyways, as I said, the recommended preferred alternative is alternative 2. It's expensive. It's probably a $30 million project. Certainly not something that's going to be happening tomorrow. I love the shrug, like, $30 million.
Everything
Put that in
is.
the back pocket. It's no problem. But we will be looking at alternative 2, kind of best needs meets. Sorry, this is my second public meeting of the night, so I'm kind of running out of steam and I haven't had dinner. It best meets the purpose and need of the project, has the greatest public support. It's endorsed by the advisory committee. It minimizes impacts to delay, fewest points of conflict, accommodates what we're looking for, addresses all the committee's concerns. So where are we at in terms of next steps? It's been approved by the TUC, the Transportation, Energy and Utilities Committee. It was approved by the Public Works Commission, likely going to the City Council on April 14th. Once it gets approved there, it'll finalize the scoping report. And then we have plans to work with the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission this summer to develop some interim designs, which will involve paint and some signal improvements. And just some short-term stuff, nothing that's going to be happening within the next year, maybe the next year, possibly. But in terms of this project and when it's going to happen, it's a big ticket project. $30 million is not a small price tag, and that's $30 million, if we were to break ground in 2027. So it probably will be more. But there are other projects that we can buddy up to. The wastewater treatment plant, they're planning on doing the the sewer main upgrade, which is right along Battery Street. So kind of looking at other opportunities to projects. That's what's going on with that.
Thank you, Philip. Do you have any questions, Brooks?
Yeah, just a quick one. Were there any so between College and Cherry is quite an expanse, and what I see are a lot of people, especially coming down the walkway by the that comes out between the Westlake and between the Hilton. They tend to come out and then they run across Battery Street because they don't want to go the half a block up and the half a block down. The other thing that I noticed is that people are less tolerant of walking down Battery all the way to the bottom to go on lake, to go to the lakefront. So there's this cascade of paths and everything else that are kind of over there that are not optimal, I would say.
I mean, trying to get down to the waterfront. So that's a separate study that's being done.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
to get lakefront connectivity, in front of Cherry Streets. That's kind of a long-term project. Someone had an idea of us putting in a slide, which would be kind of fun. You know, let's put in a slide right on Cherry
April
Street.
Fools things where they had
Come
a
on, man.
up
Be
Main
awesome.
Street or,
But no,
Cherry Street, that's the, correct.
Where that like mushroom is, you know?
Sounds right.
there's a study that's currently underway to look at how we can do that. You know, there's some opportunities for housing there too. So
and is this gonna be like a bond thing, or is this gonna be a government handing us money thing, or it's just on a list of
I gotta tell you, brother,
stuff?
working in the industry that requires federal grants, things are a little bit up in the air. I don't know if you've been keeping up on the news.
I'm trying not to. I'm trying desperately not to.
We do have, and just to be transparent, we do have existing, we do have a Safe Streets for All grant award that is on pause because it's not an agreement yet because of things that are going on in federal government. All jokes aside, you know, it's kind of we're in a little bit of a liminal phase. Did talk about it with the commission and with the Tuke. However, the federal government wants to word things, we're smart people. We'll figure out how to navigate those waters when we come to them.
And I thought Senator Leahy had acquired funds for Cherry. I mean, the Main Street, Great Streets, Main Street is underway, as we know. I thought there was something for Cherry, and then there's Battery. There seems to be a
So
lot.
Bank and Cherry, yeah, that's a reconnecting downtown. So there, some of that's up in the air as well. There's raise grants involved, and we were also applying for CDS funds, congressional directed spending, with Becca Balint and also Senator Saunders and Mr. Welsh. So there's opportunities there, and I think you know, the NOFA, which is the Notice of Funding Opportunity through FHWA, which is Federal Highway, was released last Friday. And so it seems like the Federal Highway branch of the government is proceeding as if everything's fine. So I don't know, maybe we're kind of sliding in under the, I mean, we're applying for funds where we can. We are, just to be transparent again, we are rewording certain things like FHWA used to have a major focus on things like equity. So we have decided to take verbiage like that out. It doesn't mean that our value system changes. Our value system doesn't change, but we do change the verbiage so that we can secure the funds to make the projects happen anyways.
And
So I live on Battery, Mike Street. So I'm just curious in all of the scenarios.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I stole your microphone.
It was just that you said you were going through these different sort of alternatives or scenarios. Did
Yep.
you ever consider just turning it into a totally pedestrian street? Was that ever?
Right, so Battery Street is what we would call it's an arterial. So there still needs to be a connection. So if you think of someone that lives in like the New North End and they're trying to get to the South End, or they're trying to commute to work to get to the interstate, there has to be some kind of north-south connection. So taking that street and making it a completely pedestrian-only street, we still have vehicles. We still have to consider those things, and transit. Buses still need to get through as well. Great question. I just came from the Burlington Walk Bike Council, so they would be all about that. They would be like, make them restore the commerce. They would love just pedestrians and bicyclists everywhere.
Charlie. I talked to the council once about suggesting that there be a way down to the waterfront on Cherry Street. It might involve a bridge. You couldn't have a tunnel because, like a parking garage in a movie, it means you get killed. You walk into a forest in a movie, somebody will get you. You walk into a parking garage, somebody is behind you. Walk into a tunnel, you're just asking for it. So tunnels are out. A bridge could be okay because you're visible, but to get across what some people in my building called Barrier Street. The other side of Cherry, if there was a way to have what they call a slalom, a path that goes back and forth so it's not too steep, it could take some of the burden off of College Street. Thousands of people go up and down College Street. And the last mayor was convinced that if he put a broad concrete strip diagonally through City Hall Park, leading from the back of the Whiskey Room to St. Paul and Main Street, that everybody would follow it. I said, you're building a path that doesn't follow a traffic pattern. Nobody's going to do that because they don't want to walk down Main Street. There's nothing there and they can't see the lake. And so they built it anyway, and it is happening the way I predicted, like nobody uses it for that. And there's less park and more concrete. But yeah, more ways to get downtown and to get back, get to the lake and to get back up would help, I believe. Cherry Street seems like a natural because it's in the middle. So
As I said,
maybe.
there's a study that's taking place. Julia Urzaki is a public works engineer that works with me. She would be the right person to connect with for that work because I don't know anything. That's one I haven't gotten involved
The
in.
slide study.
Yeah. It's tongue in cheek. Actually, it's not a bad idea. It'd be kind of fun, but
Would be a unique thing in terms of urban planning. You probably you'd do it right, probably get some awards and get
Honestly,
good media on it. I think you
honestly.
built it with safety in mind.
it's true.
Bobsled run. Any further questions about Batter Street? Yes, sir.
Yeah, like are there different levels of when this would happen? I can.
Yeah, I'll get out of your way. There you go.
Sorry. Didn't I just see you?
Yeah, taking up all your time. What are like the different tiers of this coming to fruition? Like if we got none of the federal funding, how much would we still build? If we got like some of it, how much would we still build? And then what's the timeline associated with that?
I had to stop sharing my screen.
Oh yeah. So
What's the reality? So I can tell you from my office, we're motivated to get at least an interim project underway, which would involve a road diet, which would involve some reconfiguration of different intersections for signal upgrades, signal timing. And I think that that's a reality that will probably happen by 2027. That'll obviously take a lot of process. I heard Sarah Morgan, who's in the Office of City Planning. She's a senior planner. Great. I got to give credit where credit is due. This is the planning process, and we have what's called a preferred alternative and a direction that we're going. And she would say planning is a process that will either happen with you or will happen to you.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have this plan in place now, and we know how we want to proceed. But once we get to the point where construction or installation starts happening, that's when folks might have other questions or comments because things just don't happen. So just my plug for getting involved in the planning.
Right.
process.
If say that we have the interim plan goes forward, is that just Burlington funding or is that
There could be some bike ped
okay?
grant funds from the states. So it could be a TAP grant, which is a Transportation Alternatives Program grant. It could be a Vermont bike ped grant. Those are usually released, information is released to those in April. Probably be something we'd apply for next spring. But we have other projects that would be thought of for that too.
Yeah.
Which are not Ward 3, but yeah.
So soonest this would happen is like 2027 with a combination of different more low non-federal funding sources.
My moonshot would be next summer.
Okay,
but
cool.
That's
Yeah. Understood. Awesome.
realistically be 2020.
And then if the whole thing goes through sometime in the future.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, this is it's a huge project.
Yeah.
And I think we have to acknowledge and recognize that there's been a lot of construction in downtown Burlington and folks are pretty fatigued on it at this point. And so taking on this kind of a project would be similar to what's happening on Main Street right now. And that has been challenging for a lot of folks. And it's understandably so. When we take on these projects, you got a lot of old utilities and it's not just the street, but it's also just, if you're there and you're doing the work, you gotta do it right.
There's a great exhibit in the Public Works Department, 645 Pond, piece of wood. That was plumbing to deliver water to the
Yeah.
city.
It's a true story. Yes.
And
And
then
still
they-
have sewer mains under the street that are wooden. That is true.
Really?
There's also some great pictures that's drawn snowplow back in the day. Also,
We're not that far away from that.
Awesome. Thanks.
You gonna follow me to the office tomorrow too?
Yeah, hopefully. I gotta go to work.
any further questions about Battery Street study? It's awesome. So we've been able to pick up a few minutes of time here. So without further ado, turn the floor to you, Councilor. Give a more elongated.
Thank you, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. First of all, I just want to remind everyone that Mayor Emma Mulvaney Stanek continues her community meetups. So once a week, and it varies depending on what part of the city. She goes to different parts of the city. So tomorrow morning, April 3rd, she'll be in the North District at the Bagel Cafe. April 8th, she'll be in the Central District at the One Community Center. And on April 16th, she'll be in the South End at Zero Gravity. Some of these are in the morning, some of these are in the evening. But when you go to the City of Burlington's website and you click on the government tab in the top left corner and then click on the mayor, these pop up and you just click on which one you're interested in and it'll confirm the location and the time that they're at. This is a really great opportunity to have one-on-one time with the mayor. She usually gives updates for the first 5-10 minutes and then takes questions from people that have shown up. And they are usually an hour long. So just wanted to remind people of that. Also, when you click on the office of the mayor, there are different options on the side. One of them are public forums on community safety. And there is a link to those forums that you can watch at your convenience. I still strongly believe some of the older forums are definitely worth watching. Each forum takes up a particular topic and provides information. So what we were talking about earlier, the laws, why can't we hold people? That was a subject, the bail laws and things like that. Why do we have teenagers that are on the streets really late at night? Why is that happening? What's the culture around that? And any number of topics, OPCs, the drug crisis. So there's a lot of valuable information there. In addition, the mayor has started doing once a month a community safety press conference. And so these are usually in the middle of the day when they occur, but they are filmed and the recordings are also available on that link. If you can't find it, let me know and I will be more than happy to email you back. So it's just trying to be very transparent and trying to give people a lot of information. Liquor licensing committee. Usually there's not much very exciting with regards to this. It's our businesses, our convenience stores, our hotels, our bars and restaurants, and they do their license renewals. It's always great to see some new businesses periodically, but there was a lot of extra things that are going on. The shopping bag in the Old North End is being taken over by new ownership, and he, when asked what changes would he make, didn't seem to he didn't think he was going to make a lot of changes, and then proceeded to talk about the changes he was going to make, which I think are going to be great in terms of giving the location a rehab and also bringing in more groceries to the neighborhood. There are multiple businesses opening on Church Street, which I think will be great because that will continue to bring more vibrancy to the area. There was an encumbrance request, and yeah, those really things we want to talk about. It's not particularly too exciting, but this particular request is for the old Y building. They are getting close to starting the construction on housing there. So that is great. What has been taking so long is there was issues with the soil and having to deal with that. And now they're getting ready to proceed, and they needed to have an encumbrance to remove some parking spaces for the construction vehicles. I will say the one downside of this, the upside clearly is to have more housing, get rid of a building that is a sign of blight in our community and has way too much graffiti on it. But when the construction does start, it's going to affect how traffic moves in and out of City Market. So we know that some people like to come in and leave on and off South Union Street as opposed to South Winooski. Yep, me too. Remember in the very beginning, they told you not to do that, but we did it anyway. They caught it.
Like a herd pack.
Yeah, exactly, because the amount of traffic on South Winooski, well, it's not going to be completely closed, but it's only going to end up being one way. So those of us who support and shop at the downtown co-op will need to be prepared for that. But that construction is coming, and that is fantastic news. It is budget season, and the budget this year, as we all know or should know, there was a massive budget gap last year of a little bit over $14 million. That has continued to affect every decision the city makes because we anticipate a gap of, I'm not sure what we're looking at now. I believe the mayor said $6 to $8 million. One is $6 to $8 million, and one amount is $6 to $8 million of what we've had to spend with regards to the unhoused crisis. We are not getting help from the state. We need help from the state, and this is coming from city money, which is taken away from other things, regretfully. But I do recommend. I know a lot of people don't like to watch city council meetings. I know why, because I'm there. And they've been rough lately, but the mayor is doing her best and has now started to talk more specifics about the Modern Gov initiative that she's been working on. And there is going to be some consolidation of departments. So at our meeting, who lives March 24th. I recommend that you can go to Town Meeting TV. I always recommend that people watch the mayor's general updates. They're full of a lot of information that we as residents need to know. And then there was a specific presentation on updating the Modern Gov initiative. In a nutshell, there's going to be a new Department of Finance and Administration that's going to put together the Human Resources Department, the Clerk's Office, Treasury's Office, City Assessor, and the Innovation and Technology Office. And there's a PowerPoint. I don't have the time to go into everything, but I do suggest, again, watching the meeting or at least reviewing the PowerPoint. There will be additional conversation about a consolidation with CEDO and business workforce development and what that will look like. And there was a discussion that for something that I love the mayor, I support the mayor, but talking about ending the recycling program. I am against this. I think that if we were to do this, it's going to be hard to bring it back. I believe this will increase. We all know that we have, as much as we value college students in our community, we've always been a college town. We rely on college students for the business that they bring in the community, they're part of our community, but we know what it's like on move out days, right? Move out days are terrible. Even when we have city pickup, they don't always get it out on time and they let their bins overflow. To not have citywide recycling to use that, I think we'll definitely have more garbage on the street. And I'm concerned about it being a step back with regards to climate and climate actions that we're trying to take. The reasons that were given were, first of all, in terms of trying to staff that position, it's been very hard to do for people who work on the trucks and do the collecting. They have changed the grade in the past in order to raise how much is being paid, but they still have trouble filling it, and there have been injuries. People who do other jobs in DPW are sometimes pulled to do the job of picking up the recycling. It's not something that they signed up for. That's affecting morale. So those are legitimate concerns. I think we may need to look at looking at the grade of it and saying, well, if we're not paying enough to get people to come do the job, maybe we do need to be paying more. I think putting this out here, it's not quote unquote a new tax, but it's putting an expense on people because it's saying now you have to pay to have your recycling picked up. And we don't know for the haulers that already work in the city. We know, for example, when it comes to food scraps, they don't pick up garbage and food scraps on the same day. So it's going to have more trucks in the community on multiple days. So those are the feelings that I and other counselors expressed. So it's definitely worth being engaged with that discussion and offering feedback either through email to counselors, participating in public forums in person, or online. If you want to choose to participate online, you have to have signed up at least an hour before city council meeting starts. As people may remember, we were kind of Zoom bombed last year, so we had to change the rules about people who sign up online. So just wanted to remind everyone of that. They are setting the dates for discussing the budget. It's nicknamed the Marvelous Nights of May. So they're being scheduled Wednesday nights, May 7th, May 14th, May 21st, and May 28th. These are going to be from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. They will be recorded by Town Meeting TV. These will be Board of Finance meetings. People can offer public forum, but I don't think there can be questions other from city councilors during those actual presentations. The budgets themselves will be posted before the meeting. So if people look at them, have a question, shoot it over to counselors. I am going to be trying to attend in person, especially for fire and police, but really going to be looking as much as I can. And the last thing I'll say is that when they're posted, it'll be the budget for each department that is being featured that night. And when everything's posted, it's going to say which departments will be on which nights. Thank you.
And where will they be held?
They are usually held in here. Yeah, Sharon Bush. Yep.
I'm just gonna say, for it's not a financial person. I've oftentimes seen cities budget information presented as a form of Excel spreadsheet, and it might be the guide to understand. Make some heads or tails of that. To me, a little intimidating for someone who's not of a financial background.
Like a cheat sheet?
Yes, a cheat sheet. I would just say too, as far as the budget, my recollection was at the January 13th meeting, there was a $4.5 million budget gap and a projected tax increase in the tax rate of 6 to 7%. And my recollection was that the gap has narrowed down to either 2 or 2.5 million, but we're looking at a little bit of a larger tax increase now because of the labor contracts that have to be negotiated.
Um, so we are in negotiations. I'm not part of those teams, so I just don't know where we're going to land. I do know that let's take the public safety tax, which previously there was an increase of 3% that was voted on and accepted by the residents of the city. We used 2 of the 3 cents. We are probably going to end up going to the 3 cents. And we will, as we get closer and as there's more work sessions, so there's going to be some work sessions and then there's going to be the final budget presentations. We're going to get more details on that. I think these expenses that are necessary, but not, I don't want to use the term planned, you know, when we have to open a warming shelter, for example, and we've had to have done that several times this winter. That's an expense that the city has to cover. We have a different standard than the state does. The state says you got to open it when it's -20. We open it if it's going to be or feel like it's -10. And when we just look at what we have to outlay, and it's looking great, but we're building a new high school. That has affected what we can borrow and how much we can borrow because of the expense of the high school. And other than some remediation, we've not gotten, we've talked about this before, we haven't gotten any state help for that. And we are seeing now the chaos at the federal level. People are starting to understand how federal dollars move through state and local. At our last Public Safety Committee meeting, Chief LaChance was talking about $100,000 grant that they had received for training. So this would be major training for our firefighters, covering transportation costs. You spend that money and you have to wonder, are we going to get it? Because they're pulling back on grants and monies that were applied for, that were approved and promised. They're shutting people out of the programs that they use to process payments on grants. So it's causing chaos even here in Vermont. So it's kind of a nervous time, to see, are we going to stop things? When we think about all of our public infrastructure, the Winooski Bridge, this is big matching dollars that are in play. Are we going to be affected by that because somebody pisses off somebody in Washington? They don't like what they say. They don't like what they do. They don't like what they believe. These are really, really, I've been watching the news. I was watching Cory Booker, but we all need to be engaged. We need to be paying attention, and we need to understand the money that flows through our city, because a lot of people are like, what do we care about federal? Like, yeah, we care a lot about federal.
One of my friends, or a couple of my friends, work for BCA.
Yep.
And I know that the last sort of budget adjustment, because of the big deficit, they had to there was huge amounts of sort of cutting of services or increasing prices and reducing sort of things.
And we lost funding for the Festival of Fools.
Exactly. So, and this is what I was just thinking about, because there used to be, remember those free concerts in the park in Battery Park, right? And we're talking about how do we get people into Burlington to be together. And so do you have a sense of, is that going to be another focus of budgetary cuts, or is there a way for you also to advocate more for these kind of things? Because it's an upfront cost that comes with a lot of long-term.
Absolutely. The more events that we have here, the more people that it brings, the more positive activity there is, the less negative activity. That is very clear. I still haven't gotten an answer, because I asked, my understanding was that external contributions that had been relied upon were not going to happen this year. And I was curious as to who had been donating that wasn't donating, because the city can't make up the money when something like that happens. I'd like to know because we have other, let's take Juneteenth. We were just discussing this in the REIB committee meeting. The Juneteenth event is a great event. One of the best parts about it is the community dinner. It brings down hundreds of people, multiple food trucks, multiple food vendors. Battery Park is packed. Around Church Street, or outside that area is packed. The budget this year for it is really cut back. And there's going to be a committee that's going to be focusing specifically on fundraising. But I myself, I'm just like, oh my gosh, if we don't have the community dinner, I mean, that's one of the best parts of it. It's already had to be back. Someone who has DJ'd in the past, I'll be donating my services and being able to do extra slots if needed. But at the same time, it's always been an opportunity for artists and musicians to be able to practice their craft and earn funds for it. A lot of these, when you think about the performers that come for the jazz festival, for Festival of Fools, this is a way that people can practice their craft, and that gets affected, right? All of that goes down. So we don't want to diminish the arts during the time of year where we can best showcase it. That is definitely a major concern that I have. And I'd like to see the city, money's such an issue that we can't do more, but it would be great for us to do more. I mean, I've always felt that way for years. We're right in the middle of Boston and Montreal, both of which have major festivals. And you have people that travel intentionally to these festivals and can stop here, on the way. The Jazz Festival is just announced the initial lineup. They'll be on the 16th announcing the full lineup. I think they've done a fantastic job the last 3 years, but they've reduced the length of time, which I have found to be important. I'm just like, wow, we've got this great caliber. We've got a lot of free shows, which brings in more people, but we used to do it for like almost 2 weeks. And we used to include a lot more local artists. So we have to look and see what that schedule is. Will they be able, how many days will they be able to work? Money. It just comes up for everything as to what we can do, what we can't do. It's going to be a really hard time for a while, but I don't know. I'd like to see more pop-ups. I think Burlington can do more pop-ups. So.
I think that it's not generally recognized that the social media are anti-social media. They keep people with what they buy, what other people buy. They are markets. They have a 10 to 20-year-old market and a 20 to 30-year-old market and a black market and a white market, and they do anything they can to separate people. And the young people don't think anything about the old people. The family is gone. The community thing is gone. People don't think like a community anymore. And this is my major project, is trying to get people together on a regular basis, just older people and younger people. You want to know what the 20th century was like? We will tell you. You want to know what it's like to grow up now? You can tell us. And people just don't talk to each other. They talk to their machines. And it essentially works against the community. We're going to be fighting something that just like the billionaire thing. We're fighting something that has billionaires behind it, but we must, because we are a community, despite what they want to sell us.
I think, when we talk about talking to our youth, this would be a great reminder. Boys and Girls Club, King Street Youth Center, they need mentors. They really need mentors, especially men, to mentor young boys and teenage boys. They need people to volunteer to drive kids places to activities. There are kids who can't participate in sports and other activities because they don't have someone that has a car that can help transport them so they can get there safely. So if anybody out there has that time, definitely reach out to those two organizations and they can use the help. And there's also sometimes, the King Street Youth Center, they've had the concern that sometimes kids don't participate in the programs that they have because they can't get there safely. It has been established, unfortunately, that some of the traffickers that have come into town have targeted our teenagers. And in terms of, dealing and how do we protect them? It requires more of us getting involved and understanding that giving someone a car ride, how important that is.
I'm sorry, King Street Youth, and what was the?
Boys and Girls Club. Yep.
You got a bus, I got a CDL.
But you see, but then we need the money for the bus. But that's good to know. Well, maybe that's what we need to do. We need to get focused on a lot of different fundraising. I mean, we also need to we recently passed a resolution to double the housing fund, right? So that'll probably increase the administrative expenses because we need people to go out and look for grants that may not be federal, but go after private organizations, endowments, charities that or foundations that offer money. Who is it? Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, who was giving away a lot of money, and I believe she contributed a large amount to CHT. People like that aren't associated with the government, but could be a source of funding. And at all levels, everyone has to do more of that. But I think it's going to be interesting too, looking at what happens with the budget. Because I know the mayor's view, Mayor Mulvaney Stanek is looking at, you cannot fix this in 1 year. She's looking at, 3 to 5 years down the line. Under the previous mayor, in 10 years, the number of city employees just about doubled. And there were departments set up with some of the ARPA money. Those are federal dollars that were made available to communities during COVID in order to help kind of stabilize communities. Some of those departments were put up with some of that money without the long-term planning of how they would go back into a regular budget after all these funds dried up. So that is what she's looking at and thinking at. The discussions at council have definitely been very interesting. Her updates have been very interesting. Just need more people to watch them because I am continue to be concerned where people are like, well, I don't know this. I haven't heard this. And it's like, she's talking about this. She's talking about it. It's been filmed. And we just all at this time have to be more civically engaged than we are. Can we all go to all the meetings? Absolutely not. But they are recorded and you can watch them at your convenience.
Thank you, Councilor Grant. While we're just waiting for Chris to get back, were there any other comments, questions on this topic?
I think I got everything.
Yeah, I neglected to share just one announcement that I was going to during public forum and texted Chris about it. Registration for the COTS Walk is officially open. The annual event is going to be at Battery Park again. first Sunday in May, May 4th. The theme this year is Building a Better Future, and you can fundraise and register online right on COTS website. It's cotsonline.org/COTS-walk. No more questions or anything?
More questions? Last minute announcements?
Well, I've got one quick question. Sorry. This is related to budget. So I think I was looking, and obviously for obvious reasons, like police and fires, like the major area of increase. Why do we have to send out a fire truck every time a police car goes? That seems like a huge, like nowhere else I've ever lived do you do this. And I imagine there was one scenario once where they didn't send one. And so now we send them every time, but that seems like that would help to reduce costs and more efficiently out.
So the fire department they respond a lot to overdoses, and it used to be they responded together. And then more and more the fire department went on their own, and then they were bringing out the big trucks. They actually came up with, it's called the community response team, where some of the team said, hey, we're going out to these overdoses where fleet issues are a whole nother discussion. We hold on to vehicles longer than we should. They are increasing in cost exponentially. But they came up with an idea to have a smaller truck just with what they need to deal with overdoses. The fire department uses heat maps. So they had heat maps showing the days of the week, the time of day where they were responding to the most overdoses, and they use that to schedule personnel. So they have moved on to using smaller vehicles when needed. When we see both, it's still sometimes a matter of protection until you, in some cases, it's a matter of safety. In some cases, is it going to be where you might need the firefighters to assist? If we talk about the bathroom in City Hall Park, like sometimes people, they get locked in there. So you need equipment to like get them out. It's just
Is it back open?
yeah, they're still cleaning it every morning, but it's closed more than it should be for a whole variety of reasons that would be too long to go into. But just it's a lot of it is just in case. Is just in case to make sure they have the backup when they can. But we do see our firefighters out there a lot on their own.
I've got to say, I live in a building where people go to the hospital on a regular basis. It seems it's not on a schedule, but it's often. And some people call us the ambulance building. But every time an ambulance shows up, that's great. They can help save somebody's life. But there's a fire truck that comes with them. Every single person I've talked to thinks the fire truck is a waste of money and a waste of taking up the street. And there's I would say there's less than 1% of the time when anything is on fire or any of them are needed. And they really don't seem to be able to think about that. It's what do they get? 5 miles a gallon? They really.
No, I definitely hear what you're saying. Then there's that very small percentage where they are needed, right? So
yeah, but
they follow certain protocols around safety. And I have a lot of respect for Chief LaChance. He's extremely transparent. His reports every other month at our community safety committee meeting, he reviews his commission report. He gives details. He gives the types of incidents that maybe at next month's meeting, I'll send you one of his commission reports. He answers questions. You really have a sense of what's going on in that department. I hope during one of my first conversations with, I'm letting Chief Burke kind of get settled in, but I hope to see a change in how data is presented from the police department so that it's a little bit more transparent than what we've had. I'd like to see the type of graphs, statistics, and of course, a strategic plan for recruitment and retention that we haven't had. I mean, the fire department just had a fantastic one. Is hiring 6 people on a strategic social media digital advertising plan. And we need that same thing.
Final question, Mark.
Yeah, just Councilor Grant, if you'll help me remember, I was watching I watch all the city council meetings. It's the sickness maybe, but I watch them all. And thanks to Town Hall TV.
Yes.
And I was watching a recent, maybe a month and a half ago, public safety meeting. And I think you were present there. And the Chief LaChance was talking specifically about talking about divorcing where they could, bringing both the fire truck and so they're definitely thinking about it. And then they realize that they may not need to do it all the time. And they're trying to figure out if there might be a logistical way that they could differentiate when they need to and when they don't.
Yep. And then he knows I love numbers. I am just very fact-based, data-driven decisions. We do things sometimes for political reasons that have not served our city well, quite frankly. So when he gives all this data and when he does heat maps, I was like, heat map. I would love to see our drug task force at BPD do heat maps. I'm like, we need that because then we know where, like, sometimes we know we're like, hey, Center Street, hey, garage, Beale Street, or the library, like we see certain things, but if you're doing heat maps, you can catch patterns before they blow up the way they do sometimes.
Wrap this up here. Go 30 seconds.
So since you're going to continue talking about these fire trucks, that question has come up at NPA meetings for literally 30 years. Okay. And the response from the fire department for years was it was an insurance thing that they had to have enough at an incident. And then another response was, well, we have to get enough personnel to the site. And the only other vehicle we have is this huge truck. So it was like insurance. It had to do, they have to get enough personnel there because that question has been raised so many times for 30 years. So it's just the way it is. That's just the way the fire department has always done it.
But to the previous comment, they are looking at that, like that community response team. It's a smaller vehicle. And that was intentional. Thank you.
But I think it's totally acceptable for them to share the analytics that go behind sending the 2 trucks.
Yeah.
And in the budget situation that we're in, there is not a no risk proposition to having this an affordable city. So we just need to, as a population, understand the risk associated with sending 2 trucks, because I'll tell you, I'm on this, like you, I'm down here all the time and there's both trucks. So I'm just suggesting that they share with them their not procedure, but their thought processes behind them, and let us as a citizenry go, that is overkill, or it's acceptable, or I agree, or I don't with the methodology. And then I'll be done.
If you send me an email, I will send you the link to that meeting with the timestamp of Chief LaChance's presentation. I think you'll find it very interesting because he hasn't been there. He's been chief for 2 years now, 3 years. I'm not sure, but he thinks differently and he's very transparent.
All right. On that note, we will wrap it up. Thanks everyone for coming tonight. Our next meeting is the first Wednesday of the month in May, which is May 7th. Same place, same time. Hopefully next month we'll have some refreshments and some light snacks before the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
That went well.